All right, you are listening to WKNC. This is your host, Abdullah Najjar, and this is Connecting to Pack. I am joined by Helena Rico. Helena is a Spanish student here at North Carolina State University. She likes to travel, she likes learning more about other cultures, and she spent some time in South Korea, and now she is in the U.S. Very excited. I'm very excited to be talking to Helena today. And without further ado, Helena, welcome to the studio.
Hello, thank you, Abdullah.
So, you have a very interesting background, Helena. You've studied in Spain, obviously, but you also spent some time in South Korea. So, I'm very interested in learning about what prompted you to spend some time in South Korea, study there, and how the process started. Why Asia?
Mhm. Well, I think everything started when I had to choose a major because when you finish school in Spain and you are going to university, it's not like here in the US. I don't know if people are familiarized with this, but you need to actually choose something from the first moment and you cannot really change what your major is. So I had to make a very tough decision at 18, which is tough, as I said. And what I wanted to do was international studies. I was very focused on that. I really wanted to, but there were no options in my hometown, and I couldn't really move to another place back in the day. So the closest thing that I found in my hometown to international studies was Asian studies.
Hmm.
So I wasn't really familiarized with Asia that much. I didn't really know much about it. I was just, this anime manga fan. I really liked Japanese culture. So I wanted to do like Japanese studies.
Yeah.
But there was another problem that in my city there were no Japanese studies, only Korean studies. If I wanted to do Japanese studies, I had to move to another city. So my thought was, okay, let's just do Korean studies for a couple of years and then I'll like transfer credits and move to the other city when I can and finish Japanese studies. And I started my Korean studies major knowing nothing about Korea. I had no idea what Korean was, where Seoul was on the map. I had literally no idea.
Wow.
And I started and I loved it. I really loved it. And I decided not to pursue Japanese studies
Wow.
and rather stay with Korea. And I got the chance to do my senior year in Seoul. So it was kind of, the path that the university marked for us. Asian studies majors, it's kind of the thing that you have to do. Move to Korea at least. Well, Korea or whatever, the country that you're studying.
Mhm.
At least 1 year. So I went originally for 1 semester. And when I was there, I liked it very, very much. And I extended my stay for another semester. So I ended up leaving my house for a year when I went for 3 months.
Wow, this is fascinating. So, what was it like for you as a you're coming from Spain, a European country, and you're moving to Asia, and obviously it's just an entirely different part of the world, right? Very, very I reckon a different culture. So, what was it like for you in I guess in the early days of your journey in South Korea? What was something that was like, I guess, culturally shocking or culturally significant?
I feel like mm, me and my other classmates that went together to Korea had this thing that other people that I got to meet later on didn't have. That was a cultural background. We had 4 years or 3 years at the time of learning about Korean culture. We knew some things. We had a feeling of how it could be, but still, it was so shocking to get there. Especially, we went in COVID time, so the measures were it was crazy. Getting to the airport, we got there. There were people in like full suits.
Wow.
There was a 4 hour line. I was in the airport for like 4 hours. They had to call every single people's like quarantine facilities manager to confirm that you actually were going to that place. You couldn't touch anything. You had to go in like a special taxi. You had to go in like a special ambulance to do the PCR. And I feel like that was the first cultural shock that was like, this would never happen in Spain. Like, every country dealt with the pandemic as they could, but we could have never dealt with it like that. It's
Wow.
just the amount of, how can I say this? Just the way that they organize things and the smoothness of how it works that could have never happened in Spain. That really shocked me, like just in the first hour that I was there.
This is crazy. So you actually traveled during the first COVID year, 2020.
It was yeah, I was there in no, sorry. I was there in 2021, but still
Wow.
the measures were pretty strict in Korea for most of my time there, yes.
This is insane. So that means you probably there were many things you weren't perhaps allowed to experience because of these measures and these strict rules and regulations, right?
Mhm.
So what was given that, what was your daily routine like? I mean, there must have been some very strict limitations in terms of, where you get to go, what you get to do, and all of that. So, what can you tell me about this sort of, I guess, special experience in South Korea?
I feel like, and I was a little bit sad about this at first when people would tell me, people that had been living there for a long time, like how cool being in Korea was before and how like limited we were at that moment. But I honestly felt like I could do most things. I just have to be careful, like sanitize your hands, wear masks, try to not to be in very big amounts of people.
Mhm.
But I would say the worst thing about the pandemic there was not being able to go to university. We had online classes for first semester and like half of the second semester too.
Oh,
Because even though the cases were less, worrying, in other countries in Spain, they were back to normal classes, but they were still some universities, mine included. I went to Chungang University, that they did not go back to normal classes until like maybe April, I think.
wow.
So that was kind of bad. And also sometimes it was, depending on the week, some weeks the cases were worse, so we couldn't really hang out in, restaurants in tables of more than four people. Some weeks it was better. So you had to kind of be on top of what was going on.
Wow. And you said you actually extended the period of your stay in South Korea, even though, at that point in time, there were so many, I guess,
Mhm.
precautionary measures. So you didn't get the full experience. Um, with that said, what was, I guess, what was it exactly that you really enjoyed about South Korea that pushed you to want to extend your stay? I'd be interested to know more about that.
I feel like when you're doing, I don't really know if other people doing the same thing agree with me, but I think when you're doing area studies,
Hmm.
sometimes after a long time studying it in the classroom, you end up learning more being there than being in the classroom. Because I felt like 3 years in, I had learned most of the theoretical knowledge that they could give me about South Korea. This is, a reach. I'm obviously never going to learn everything about South Korea,
Right.
but I feel like being there for, I think I was there for 10 months, was so enriching, and I learned so much about the culture, even about the history, just being in the places that I've been learning for 3 years, just being in like Gyeongbokgung Palace or the Han River, talking to Korean people, like actually being in Korea was such a crazy learning experience that I feel like if you do area studies and you don't go to the place that you're studying about, you're missing out. It's
Wow.
just impossible to learn that.
Right, right. Yeah, you need that sort of knowledge on the ground. You need that sort of interaction with the
Yeah.
people that you're
Hmm.
studying or the country that you're studying, that is. Um, so you said you spent 10 months there.
I think so ish. Yeah.
Okay.
From
What
like September to, no, sorry, August till July.
August till July. Wow. So in terms of, I guess, uh, cultural, how do I phrase it? Cultural adaptation,
Hmm.
how long did it take you to fully or to a certain extent understand, the different, I guess, the different nuances of the Korean culture, and to adapt to it. How long was that process?
I feel like you never really end up adapting completely to anything. It's just every day you learn something new. And I feel like as the people who had been studying Korea and Korean people and Korean culture for years, were more prepared to those nuances and the cultural interactions that were gonna happen, but still we weren't really prepared to be in there and actually experiencing them. But I feel like many people that had no idea about Korea before had a very idealized idea of the country and like the culture, especially from what Korea has been selling for years, the how just the projection of the this idealized Korea that is selling, that is the soft power that Korea holds. And it's a great thing, but you cannot go to Korea expecting to find that. And I feel like many people did, and they came there and they were shocked in a very bad way.
Wow.
And many people were going to stay longer and they came home earlier
Mm.
because Korea is a great place. I loved being in Korea. I think visiting Korea is awesome. I think studying in Korea is great. I think I would not live in Korea for longer than a year now that I've been there for a year.
Yeah. Wow. So, share with me and the audience I guess, a funny story about, I guess, about your cultural immersion.
Mhm.
Something that you would look back, something that you probably didn't think it was funny at the time, but now when you look back at it, you're like, oh, that was a hilarious encounter.
I feel like many times it was very silly how you would like go to a I don't know a restaurant, especially like a shop. If there was like an old person there
Mm.
and you started speaking in Korean to them, I mean, my Korean's not perfect, but I would say you could understand me a
Yeah.
little bit. And then you would start speaking in Korean, and they would like look at you. They were listening to you, but they would look at you, and they was replying broken English, and you were
Really?
like responding in Korean, and they were trying to speak to you in English. So it was like this impossible conversation because you could not understand their English because
Yeah.
they don't really speak English that well if they're like an old person, and you're trying to speak Korean, they don't really, I don't know, it's just very very strange. And I feel like that is a way of showing how like Korea kind of has traditionally interacted with foreigners.
Mm.
And I feel like as a foreigner it was very fun and very enriching, but it was also had this kind of darker side in the way that this sort of like internalized xenophobia that the country has.
Mm.
Not even it's not even racism because obviously I'm a white person. It's not going to be racism against me. But I felt like this kind of like this is us and this is them, the
Oh.
foreigners, and it's kind of like I don't know patronizing trees sometimes. The not really wanting to do anything with foreigners.
Huh.
That was in the end kind of what made me not want to be in Korea anymore. When I was going home in like late June, or I was ready to go home, I think.
Yeah. You felt like you've had the full experience, and it was, I guess, enriching and fulfilling.
Oh yeah.
Mm. So, w- now, from South Korea, or I
Hmm.
guess from Spain to South Korea to the United States,
Yeah.
what was the transition like? Coming from South Korea and then moving back. I guess you moved back to Spain, your home country,
Yes.
and then you moved to the U.S. What was that like? This transition?
Well, I feel like my last months in Korea were went by very fast because I was also working and studying, so everything just went down very very quickly. And when I found myself back home again, I felt a little bit lost. I feel like the process of going back home after being alone, like outside for so long, it's a little bit challenging. But I managed to do some things. I got certified as a Spanish teacher, and I was doing this kind of like gap year. That
Mhm.
was also hard because I had been in university for so long that I didn't have now anything to do. It was kind of like a shock. So I was kind of trying to keep myself busy, working, doing that certification, trying to spend the most time I could with my family, my friends. When I have to move again, it felt like, I don't know, it just feels more, less, how can I say this? Less life changing than
Oh,
the first move. I don't know
okay.
why. Even though this is so much more life changing because I'm doing here like a master's and I'm this is so much more important for my life and my career. But having done the first move before, I feel like that milestone is already surpassed, and this is just another thing. I didn't feel like I was leaving home with that sadness that I had the first time
Mm,
that I left.
yeah. It's as if you've developed a sort of it's as if you've become accustomed to it. The fact that you leave your home country in pursuit of something, I guess, of value outside of your home country. I think I would say the same thing about myself.
Hmm.
Because I've spent some time in Lebanon. I'm from Libya, and then when I was 17, um, I moved out of Libya. I spent some time in Lebanon, and obviously the first transition outside of your home country at an early age is definitely at least a very very strong impact on you. You know, but obviously when since I've moved to Lebanon for a while, and then during that time I had a chance to do an exchange semester in the U.S. That sort of transition didn't feel that
Yeah.
as impactful. So I totally understand what you mean. Um, so the I would love to know more about, I guess, adapting to the American culture.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you've been before, since before the start of your grad school journey, but I'd be interested to know what was it like to adapt to the American culture, and how different is it truly compared to the Spanish culture.
Hmm. Yeah, I was here before, and that gap year that I had, I came here for like a couple of months to visit my boyfriend, and just to check if I actually liked it enough to be here for 2 years doing my masters.
Right.
Since I had that chance, because I had been saving money and everything, I took it, and I think I don't regret doing that because I got like used to some things that were different, especially just moving around the Raleigh area, like the place where I was going to go to school and everything.
Hmm.
Getting to know that was good for me. And then when I came back, now I'm kind of more know I know a little bit more where I'm at and everything. But talking about the American culture, I feel like I still don't get, and I will never be able to get, how they socially interact with each other. I mean, Spanish people, we are very touchy. We like hug people. We greet strangers with two kisses. I don't know, we spend hours on, eating in restaurants and talking and shouting, and
Yeah.
we just, I don't know, I feel like the American culture is more individualistic.
Yeah.
It's less based on family. I cannot understand how American people can like not talk to their parents that live like, I don't know, states away every single day. Like my mom calls her sisters that live an hour away 3 times a day every single
Wow.
day.
Wow.
And it's not too crazy. Like I know most people do that, and the bond I feel between people are very strong in cultures as the Spanish one. This is very family based, very people based.
Mm.
The nucleus of your family, of your friend group, of the people that are around you is very, very important. And I feel like American culture, maybe I'm wrong, I don't haven't been here enough to say this for sure, but I feel like people are just spreading it around, tending to be more and more individuals rather than, the family group or the friend group or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah. No, I think I would agree to a certain extent. Yeah. Coming from, I guess, a country with somewhat of a similar culture,
that.
we're also pretty much
Yeah,
collectivists, right?
Mediterranean, yeah.
Yeah. So, the Arab world, since I come from Libya and I've lived in Lebanon, there is that sense of that sort of collectivist sense. We're very much family oriented. We very much appreciate these bonds that between us and our family and our extended family. So I totally understand what you mean. It's definitely uh, very different culture.
Yeah.
And funny enough, when you mentioned that sort of, I guess, physical proximity, or I guess the physical contact, um, in Lebanon, like when you greet someone that it's always, it comes with like an air kiss of some sort. So I understand what you mean, and that's obviously you wouldn't be able to do that here.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. Like when the day we had like the international students orientation, I overheard some guy speaking in a Spanish accent, like Spanish with an accent from Spain, and I was like, oh my god, I need to talk to him right now. So I like turned and I was like, are you from Spain? He was like, yes, and we like started talking, and he was like, oh, I'm wherever, I don't remember his name, and like he greeted me with two kisses, and there were like people around. Probably everybody was like, what are they doing? What is this? Who are these people?
This is crazy. Yeah, it's definitely weird when I share this with some of my American friends. They'd be so surprised to hear that in different in Lebanon, for example, like you greet a person that with an air
Mhm.
kiss. Um, but yeah, it was definitely tough for me when I first showed up from Lebanon to the U.S. to kind of adjust to that.
Yeah.
Like when you're building a bond with a friend of yours. I, uh, Back in Lebanon, obviously you would greet them with an air kiss, but here you
Yeah.
can't do that. So I was treading carefully.
Mhm.
Um, so now that you're in the U.S. and you've been here for since the beginning of August, I would probably
Yeah, like a
or
month and well, 2 months maybe
oh,
almost.
okay. What do you think are some of the lessons you've learned so far about your experience
Mhm.
and um yeah, like something culturally significant perhaps that you've learned about here in the U.S.
I think just probably I have to give a shout out to American people because we have such a horrible image all over the world. I think
Oh no. Oh no.
myself, I wasn't really, this image of the American being, just self-centered and kind of thinking that America is the only thing that exists in the world and everything. That's what I thought before.
Yeah.
But Americans have proved me wrong. I think I've come here to find the nicest people I've ever met in my life, the
Wow.
people who are always willing to help you, who greet you with a smile everywhere. The service in restaurants is something I've never experienced in my life before. It's like, I don't know, going to a family gathering. They're so nice. And how like hardworking American people are, especially American young people. It's I've seen everybody holding their careers with their part-time jobs, maybe two part-time jobs, three part-time jobs, with their school, even like master's degrees with like two jobs or like full-time jobs. And I feel like we have maybe a lot to learn from that and get rid of this bias that we have. Maybe they've earned it sometimes, but I feel like there's much more of the American people that we know outside of America. And it's very sad because I really have never met such nice and hardworking and good people.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely agree with that. I see a lot of hardworking Americans that truly that make you very much that would push you to really admire them. I admire a good work ethic, and I see that there's definitely a lot to learn, like you said, from their, I guess, perseverance and their ability to balance a
Yeah,
lot of
that is
different moving
crazy.
pieces at once. So I also pretty much appreciate that. Yeah. Um, in terms of kindness, I noticed that a lot in restaurants and,
It's
and
awesome.
cafes.
I mean, we are nice in Spain, but it's not comparable. Like the nicest person that would serve you in a restaurant in Spain is like low tier here as a server. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny when I go to, I guess, a cafe and I'm getting coffee, uh, and when I'm about to when I'm approaching a cashier, sometimes you find this old lady who would greet you with, "Hey there, sugar," or
Yeah.
"Good morning, honey."
Like, hello, baby, how are you? I'm like, I love you.
Right. Yeah, it's really funny. I remember contacting you know my siblings about this. Telling them, "Did you know that whenever I'm approaching the cashier, there's like an old lady. That's how she would greet you." So they were really surprised by that. But I like it. They truly value their customers.
Oh, yeah.
Customer comes first, and that's something that I mean, obviously, yes, you do get treated well in Lebanon in term in Lebanese restaurants or cafes, and obviously in Libya too. But I guess in the U.S. it's very very different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, is there anything you would like to add, Helena, before we wrap things up?
Mm, I don't know. I think I just have to say that everything that I've done, I would have never expected it. Since I was young, I had many dreams, many crazy dreams, many other not that crazy dreams. I wanted to be like an archaeologist because I was obsessed with Indiana Jones when I was a child. Then I wanted to be a translator in the UN. I guess I'm closer to that now that being an archaeologist.
Right.
But I feel like if you keep working hard and just follow the path that sometimes opens to you and be brave and take chances, you end up in the place that you were supposed to be and you didn't even know about it. And I think I wanna emphasize that for people that maybe are afraid of taking the chance. I would say take it because it's worth it.
Wow, it's very wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for this wonderful conversation,
Thank
Helena.
you,
It was
Carlos.
an honor having you here.
Oh no, thank you so much for inviting me.